Hi, I'm Lauren McCracken, and you're watching my podcast, Cracken's Corner. This is episode 11, Art and Trauma Recovery, Part 1, Creative Writing and Music. So this past week has been a little bit chaotic compared to most, emotionally and physically, as we had this really crazy flood in our area. Thankfully, we were okay, but I did know some people experienced extremely bad damage to their properties and their homes, and some even had to be rescued by boat. So all those people are in my thoughts and prayers right now because that's a really rough thing to go through. Also, I started physical therapy this week with an awesome doctor to try and help fix my back because it's been having some chronic pain issues for a while now, and I'm trying to be a good girl, trying to do my physical therapy homework every day and keep up with it, which is really hard for me because I am not by my nature a very physically active person. I don't enjoy exercise most of the time unless I'm distracted and having fun while doing it. So it's hard, but I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to keep trying to do this and be consistent so that I can see results and hopefully feel better. So yeah, once again, thank you for listening and keeping up with our lives. So I actually have two great quotes for you this week about using music as a way to cope with your emotions. So the first one goes, "It's unhealthy for people to never express any kind of negativity or doubt. To have balance, you need to address that side of your thoughts as well as the positive. Otherwise, you tend towards crazy." And that was by Shirley Manson, the lead singer of Garbage, who is amazing. And the second one is, "I don't like painting flowers in my music. I like painting guts and pain." And that's from Jonathan Davis from Korn, who's also amazing. So Shirley, the absolute icon, first speaks to the importance of expressing your emotions, even if they're negative or difficult. She believes it helps us to stay sane, and has often been quoted speaking about how much she values and appreciates meeting other female artists, especially those who don't really fit the typical pop princess mold, which I think is awesome and really incredible of her. Her general approach really towards addressing things so directly is insanely inspiring, especially to someone like me who is always guilty of being like a people pleaser, and I like to keep everyone happy. And so sometimes I kind of silence myself because I don't want to upset somebody with my opinion on things, and I need to learn to speak up for myself more. So I'm trying to do that. It's something I'm trying to work on, but I'm going to try to take that page out of her book. So Jonathan Davis, absolute legend. He uses his quote to speak so openly about how he harnesses his pain and trauma directly to make incredible music that has touched the lives of so many people around the world. It's extremely cathartic to listen to and very powerful stuff. He's a legendary lyricist and performer because he's so open about subjects that a lot of people don't feel comfortable speaking on, but especially topics that it seems in our current culture men are kind of pushed away from talking about, like sexual abuse, which is extremely traumatic for anyone to deal with. But it's something we often don't hear about from the perspective of a masculine person, so it's very interesting. He's had an extremely traumatic past, and somehow he's been able to use that to make some of the most profound and moving art that I've ever heard in my life. I'd love to see him perform live one day. We were supposed to go last year to a concert to see him with Korn and a couple other really good bands. I can't remember exactly who now, but unfortunately because of the pandemic and the world going on, that all kind of got pushed to the wayside, and someday we'll get to see him and it'll be amazing. But yeah, he's an absolutely aspirational person when it comes to art and music for me. So I thought that was a really cool quote from him. So An album that has helped me deal with some really difficult times that I can talk about is Adore by the Smashing Pumpkins. Billy Corgan, who is the lead singer slash lyricist slash guitarist, he was going through a really difficult time in his life when he made this album. He was dealing with his marriage ending. His mother, who he was close with, also passed away from cancer. It was extremely horrible. And his drummer, James Chamberlain, who's an amazingly talented guy in his own right, was dealing with really bad substance abuse issues, so he had to be kicked out of the band. So all this stuff around him is like falling apart and burning to ashes. And he had just he had just come off the high from the massive commercial success of Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, which is arguably their best album, but also one of the best albums, period, in history, bar none. This guy took all those feelings after being at that mountaintop moment in his life. Now he's falling back down into this real pit of despair and sadness, and he harnessed it, and he really took his music in a different direction. He took the whole band in a different direction, and it was an insanely bold move. And while Adore didn't receive the amount of commercial success that really it merited, I think because everyone was expecting more things like Melancholy and Siamese Dream, it was still an amazing album. And to this day, it's still a very powerful thing to listen to. So he took a really big risk here, but it paid off, I think. And it's kind of funny how even amongst other Smashing Pumpkins fans, it's very divided about their feelings on the album. Personally, I still think it's amazing, and it's probably my second favorite, just behind Melancholy. I can't tell you how many times in the last 9 months or so of my life I've listened to that album, and just a couple of the songs that really stand out to me as some of my favorites were For Martha, Perfect, Ava Adore, Tear, Crestfallen. There's a lot of really good ones, but those ones were probably my favorites. Just in the last 9 months or so, as I've mentioned on here before, I've been dealing with a lot of horrible stuff. Losing my incredible Aunt Colleen, who is really a second mother to me, and my amazing and inspiring grandmom and nanny, and seeing one of my best friends lose his really wonderful father, and dealing with a lot of health problems physically and with my mental health. It's been a horrible time, to be very honest, but that album has given me so much peace and has made me feel understood and less alone. And I think that's really the power of art, and that's something that you can't find anywhere else. So I have a couple lyrics from my absolute favorite song from this album, For Martha, which Billy Corgan wrote in memory of his mother. So I can read them, of course. Your picture out of time, left aching in my mind, shadows kept alive. If you have to go, don't say goodbye. If you have to go, don't you cry. If you have to go, I will get by. I will follow you and see you on the other side. But for the grace of love, I'd will the meaning of heaven from above. So once again, he wrote this really beautiful, longer track as a dedication and a tribute to his mother. I remember sitting down with my husband shortly after learning of my aunt's sudden passing, and just being able to hear this song and allowing myself to mourn and allowing myself to have my feelings and all of my grief, and feeling less alone because of that song. And I'm just so grateful to Corgan for making that and producing that and taking something from such a difficult moment in his life and crystallizing it into this absolutely beautiful and breathtaking piece of art that could give me a sense of kinship with him and with everyone else who's ever experienced anything like that. And it really is a big form of therapy to be able to hear a song like that. And I'm just so happy to have had it at that moment. So when it comes to music and creative writing within my own life, I am a lifelong musician. If you ask my mom, I've been singing since I was an infant in the crib. Every morning I'd wake up and I'd start singing. The second I could speak, that was just what I like to do. It always made me feel happy. And I was just a natural performer my whole life, singing, and sometimes I'd dance really badly. I still dance pretty badly. I'm not really good at that. I don't have much rhythm. But I could imagine and express myself in a really unique way, even when life around me seemed kind of mundane or boring, and music could just sweep me up and take me off to like a more beautiful and vibrant world. So I've always been this like highly creative type of person. I loved to read and write from a very early age, even when I was a kid. Books and stories always offered me a different point of view and an escape from my feelings or from situations that I didn't want to deal with, especially things like sadness or fear or anger or just feeling like I didn't belong. I always knew that I could pick up a book and kind of take a vacation from those ideas for a little while. Naturally, being a highly sensitive person, my emotions were massive, and they kind of still are, but I feel like I contain them a bit better now. I like to think I can control them a bit better now. And they could become all-consuming. So taking the time to sit down and write about them or sing about them, it just made the most sense for me to try to work out my emotions. It was a healthy outlet that I could always use to deal with things that I had trouble containing or even fully coming to terms with. Writing about it gave me a chance to use my voice and really dare to say things that otherwise I didn't feel able to say. And so I'd write about it. Sometimes I'd write about falling in love because I was a very romantic person from an early age. I always was dreaming about finding some amazing guy who would sweep me away and make everything better. I'd read about losing friends and feeling unseen and being anxious or terrified or unsure of what to do in any situation. I'd sing about being depressed or questioning my life's purpose and direction. I wrote everything from poetry to short stories, a novella, and prose, but my favorite thing to write has always really been songs. And between them all, I've easily acquired like hundreds of pieces of things that I've written over the years. I like to think I've gotten better over time, but who knows, right? I think I remember writing my first song about a boy that I liked when I was maybe 12 years old. And I had a lot of emotional depth for a kid, and I took everything to heart. So it was kind of funny because even the smallest positive action that he could take would just absolutely light up my world for like a week. And I loved that I could use music to express that. It's because I was way too shy at the time to say anything, of course, or make any sort of move, but I could write a song about it and listen to it myself and sing it myself in private, and that was really cool. I remember, oh my God, this, at one point in 7th grade, I wrote a poem about this absolutely horrendous teacher that I had, who was insanely nasty and cruel to a lot of kids, including myself, and how I thought she was evil, and it slipped off my desk. And looking back now as an adult, this woman had no business teaching children whatsoever. Don't know how she had that job. Don't know how she kept that job. Don't know how she retired without like a million lawsuits against her, but somehow that happened, I guess. So it slipped off my desk and somebody found it, And they began inquiring around to each person to try to figure out who wrote it. And I was absolutely panicking. I didn't know what was going to happen, especially because there was a very good chance that that teacher that I wrote it about was going to find it. And I was so scared about being found out, I had my first panic attack where I literally thought I was dying, and that was really something. It wouldn't be my last panic attack, but I'll never forget it. I had to leave school early that day because I thought I was dying. But I did learn something from that. It was kind of funny because even to this day, nobody that I went to school with knows that I was the person that wrote it. And I remember like seeing my classmates like reading it and being so mortified because this was something intended just for me as this private piece of writing. Everyone's saying how dark it is and all that stuff, but at least someone said like, oh yeah, but it's good. And I was like, that kind of made me happy. So it kind of feels good to get that off my chest. Writing has also really helped me come to accept and learn to talk about the sexual abuse that I personally dealt with and I endured. When it came back to the surface of my mind as a teenager, I kind of pushed it down when I was younger because I didn't know what it was or how to process it. I just knew that I was absolutely terrified and I had all these complex feelings about it and I didn't know what to say. But writing and art really gave me a voice for that and helped me to find a way to talk about it. And it gave me the courage to figure out my feelings about it and accept what happened, go to therapy, and be able to speak about it, which is a very powerful thing because it's such a common experience for so many people. But we're often shamed into silence and told that whatever happened to us, we should just be over it. We shouldn't talk about it. Oh, it could ruin someone else's life if you bring this up. And it's like, well, what about our lives? We were the people who were victimized by someone who clearly took advantage of us. I think maybe they should be the ones that are worried, not us. Just for a bit of perspective. Now, as an adult, I can harness my emotions, including the positive and the grateful ones, not just the difficult ones, and turn them into art. I've written a lot of songs. I've collaborated with some other artists, which has been really cool. I was in a band for a while, and I also like to release things independently with the help of my amazing husband, the art virtuoso musician guy, because he can kind of do anything. And together we've released some singles, though I still have hopes and dreams of eventually putting out at least an EP, maybe a whole album of music that we just completely make together. I think that'd be really cool. So, as far as using creative writing as a form of therapy, I would definitely recommend using it in conjunction with therapy. I wouldn't replace therapy with that, but I would do it as well. You don't have to be good at it, because I feel like there's this expectation in a lot of our minds that in order to do something, we need to be talented in it naturally, or we need to be really, really good. And we're comparing ourselves often to professional people. And that's not really a fair comparison because we're not looking at how long it's taken them to get to that level. Most of them have had to work for years in order to reach that level of achievement. And it's the same thing with us. So yeah, even if you don't think you're good, even if you have to be bad at it for a while, write a song, write a poem, write a story, take your feelings and put them onto paper, because ultimately it really does help you a lot. And if you choose to do this, allow yourself to be as candid as you'd like. You don't have to create something for everyone else. If you want to, it can just be for you. Or maybe just for you and someone you really trust. And like, that's totally fine. I think it's really important for you to create some kind of a space in your life where you can be brutally honest and not have to worry about the judgment of other people and their opinions. So sometimes I'm not even sure how I feel, I noticed, until I sit down and try to write about something that I'm thinking of. Because sometimes that just gives you the words. A lot of times if I'm trying to write a song, or if I feel like I have a song inside of me, I'll sit by myself somewhere and kind of just like think out loud in the song, and that'll give me something to work with. And then I move from there, and I end up writing a whole song based off of a refrain, or usually the chorus will be the first thing that stands out to me, and I can kind of build a whole scaffolding around that. And yeah, it's a really cool experience to do if you haven't already, and I'd totally recommend it to anybody. Even if you don't think you're like a great singer or something, like, just do it. It's gonna be fun. So yeah, once again, thank you guys for your support of this podcast. I know that it's still very much in the early days, but we're at episode 11, and I'm planning to keep going through this every week. I'm going to try to keep making weekly content, and hopefully it's helpful to you. I know it has been helpful to some people before, so I hope this continues to be helpful and inspiring and something good in the world. Thank you for everyone who has liked this and has helped us grow, who shares this with people they think would also like it. So yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff for the algorithm, because right now we are a very, very tiny channel, and that's okay. If that's all we're ever going to be, then that's kind of fine with me. I just want it to be meaningful content. So if you have any comments, any questions, any ideas for me about something you'd like me to talk about, then you can send that to our email address, CrackensCornerPodcast@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to address that. So once again, I love you guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. I hope this is a wonderful week ahead for you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.